Hello Plus League fans, you're watching the Kuan and Ryan show. This year in the Plus League, we'll be introducing basketball in our region, expanding our perspective beyond the borders of Taiwan. Of course, we're really excited for things to come this season, and there's also going to be an international flair to things, so we thought what better way to do than to give introductions, have discussions about these new teams, this new format of competition we'll be seeing, and just generate more excitement about basketball overall. My partner is Kuan Lee. Kuan, we've worked together for a number of years, but the first time on camera together. Right. What are you looking forward to in this season coming up?
Well, like you said, this show is mainly going to be on the international aspect of the Plus League. And like a lot of people know, the EASL home and away format has been brewing for quite some time now. So I'm most looking forward towards, having this finally in fruition. And I was hoping that you can maybe give us an introduction on how the EASL works and maybe a brief history.
Sure thing. So the EASL stands for the East Asia Super League. Way back in 2016, the co-founders in Matt Breyer and Henry Cairns put together an organization to showcase the best basketball in East Asia. And so they started with a short preseason form of tournament. So originally it was a Super 8 where there were 8 teams. The inaugural season had teams like Fubang, they had Puyuan, and if you've been paying attention, you might have already heard about the Chiba Jets and the Ryukyu Golden Kings. So they were part of the first tournament. Then it evolved into the Terrific 12, where, as you can guess, there were 12 teams. Well, in 2020, because of COVID-19 pandemic, the tournament had to be canceled. And so that's where kind of plans got set in motion for the tournament we have going on now. And in August of 2020, East Asia Super League, along with FIBA, the Federation Internationale of Basketball, the global governing body of basketball, came to an agreement for 10 years. The East Asia Super League will be the championship league club competition, meaning individual clubs and not the national team will play each other for regional supremacy. Of course, a lot of excitement in basketball, the highest level of skills, and certainly hopefully more entertainment and more culture mixing in the midst. And so kind of like the Plus League, East Asia Super League has had to go through that transition and maybe take advantage of an opportunity to kind of get things prepped together, and then once the pandemic is over, let's go out and explore beyond our own boundaries. So that's kind of the thinking behind it. So in the previous season, they only were able to host the championship week in Japan between Utsunomiya and in Okinawa. But now the home and away system is going on. We can even have the fans get involved too, and that'll be really exciting.
Yeah, well, I think it's fair to say that the rationale of having a home and away with individual clubs participating in a competition is to draw fans from all over the globe and to really focus on the significance and the talent level of East Asian basketball. And speaking of the EASL 2023 tournament this year, for the first part of the season, we're going to focus on Group A competition. So fans of the Plus League will know the Taipei Fubon Braves the best, probably. They were in the 2023 Champions Week last year, and they will be participating in Group A competition this year. And other teams include the Anyang Red Boosters, who actually won the competition, the Champions Week last year, the TNT Giga.
Tropa Giga.
Yep, and last but not least, the Chiba Jets. And the Chiba Jets are a new addition that was not in last year's competition, but I think they are a force to be reckoned with because in 2 games so far, at least in the recording right now, they're 2-0, and we've seen how competent they are. So I'm excited that the competition in Group A seems very, very even. Anyone has a chance, and I'm looking forward to the season to unfold.
So in total, there will be 8 teams competing from 4 different countries. Obviously, the Plus League, we have our champions in the Braves, and then the runners-up in the New Taipei Kings.
Right.
And to round out the other teams you haven't mentioned includes the Ryukyu Golden Kings, who actually won the B-League championship in Japan. And in Korea, the runners-up are the SK Knights. Now, there's a whole bunch of interesting stories with the player movement in that side. And finally, from the Philippines is the Morocco Bolts. We'll get to introducing all those other teams, but in total, the 8 teams will be split into 2 groups, Group A and Group B, and the top 2 teams after a home and away round robin will advance to the East Asia Super League Final Four, where they will determine who is the ultimate champion in the region. We'll get to all of that as the season goes along, which will end in March. But what's really exciting to me about this show too is how we want to get the fans involved as well.
Right.
We kind of got something special going on thanks to our hosts here today, in fact.
Right, so before the show's recording, we actually got some Q&A, some questions from the fans via Threads and IG broadcast channel. And let me throw the questions at you and see what you can do with it. So one fan asked, how can I get tickets? How can I get tickets from teams that are not in Taiwan specifically?
That's a great question, but what's East Asia Super League's organization means that the home team will operate their home arena and run their home operations, which includes ticketing, which includes some of the VIP accommodations. It includes, of course, the stadium operations, everything short of the officials and the obviously organization of the tournament, the draws and whatnot. So when it comes to each venue, that'll be up to each home team, and we'll look up that information for you as we go along too. As for tickets for games here in Taiwan, for the Taipei Fuwan Braves, you can go through the Braves ticketing portal.
Well, for the Kings, you can do the same thing, but it's on IBAN, and it can be accessed via online or also through a portal.
So we look forward to you, the fans, showing up to support for the home teams, helping them out to get a crucial victory at home.
Right. Okay, let's move on to the second question then. So Ryan here does a great job of dealing with teams and especially on the EASL end of things. And one fan asked, can you kind of detail on how teams prepare for this competition? And I think it might be relevant to use maybe the Braves as an example.
Sure. One thing to know about the East Asia Super League competition is try to make things even. Every team is allowed to have 2 imports play on the floor, but to kind of accommodate and actually energize the competition as well, they're opening up to what are so-called Asian imports. So if you come from a designated other Asian country, mostly in East Asia, from the various leagues, the various teams, they will be recognized as their special slot to play alongside of the players and the teams that exist. So for example, in Japan, in Korea, and even in the Philippines, periodically, they do have an allotment of Asian imports on their rosters. So East Asia Super League said, let's take advantage of that and have fans kind of communicate and get excited about other teams in other regions. So you add those 2 things together, East Asia Super League competition said, the rosters are kind of a lot flexible in terms of accommodating every league, and so the opposite is true too. Teams will have to prepare in a certain way. And in the case of the Braves and the Kings, they've actually prepared their own Asian imports, which will be a lot of fun to watch them. Cedric Lee Bearfield for the Braves, and then Hayden Blankley for the New Taipei Kings. So we'll get to know them and introduce them as we go along. Of course, it's home and away, so teams will have to logistically plan out their travel. They'll have to plan out maybe the rotations, because all the games will be on Wednesdays in the regular season. So in and amongst your domestic league competition, you have an additional game. Sometimes you have to travel, and sometimes, getting used to the facilities, getting used to the food there, sleeping in a place that's kind of far from home. Those will all be interesting things that teams will have to tackle, but it's fair for everyone. Everybody has to play a home and away. So we might get into that about what teams do specifically, because it is kind of a long season still up ahead.
Right, and I think to add to your point, because you briefly touched on the mechanism of the 2 import and 1 Asian import system, I think one attraction of the EASL games is that because there's going to be a lot of shuffling in terms of the active roster and how teams maybe strategize against an opponent. So I think that's one, all the basketball fans can be looking forward to that. And segueing into our last question, let's just do one more. Someone asked, how can you give us info on individual teams or clubs? And I think that's a good segue for what we have following next.
That is an excellent question and something that we thought was a good idea to break down. That will be coming up as in the subsequent episodes. We'll be starting with Group A, as their competition is already 2 games in. So we kind of need to play a little catch-up, Kuan, but we're up for the task, aren't we?
We are.
All right. That'll be it for our introductory episode. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And be sure to stay tuned for the next one.